232 of Humanity Rising. Today is Earth Day. Today is that one day when humanity can come together as we do in no other celebration and just consecrate ourselves and celebrate the fact that we're earthlings. We're expressions of nature. We are Earth. And we're on a beautiful blue dot, as the astronomer Carl Sagan said many years ago, that is living, intelligent, loving, and has expressed through us an optimized version of who Earth is. And it's a moment in which we can celebrate that she's doing the same thing through every other creature on Earth, optimizing an interconnecting web of life that can communicate with itself and each other and embrace and love all other manifestations of a living planet. We want to celebrate also that President Biden of the United States has convened a climate summit today that, like Humanity Rising, is going to be convened on Zoom. It's going to last for 2 days. And today, in his opening remarks, the president announced that by 2030, the United States is going to reduce its carbon emissions by 50%. That's double what President Obama committed 10 years ago. Japan quickly followed suit and announced that it was going to reduce its carbon emissions by 46%. And we have Xi Jinping from China, who's going to be making a speech and hopefully a similar announcement. We have Vladimir Putin from Russia. We have President Bolsonaro from Brazil and Boris Johnson from England, President Merkel from Germany. 40 leaders are gathering at this critical moment in 2021 to celebrate Earth Day. I remember back in, I think it was 1978, with the first Earth Day, it was considered a radical, kind of socialist a plot against democracy to celebrate the Earth. But what a long way we've come. So we just want to celebrate that. And I also want to note that we're very pleased that our Masters in Regenerative Action that we've talked about before is really taking off. We're going to have our first course, The Fundamentals in Donut Economics by Kate Rayworth, starting June 9th. And to jumpstart this, we've had several people contribute so that we have scholarships. Yesterday we had 50 scholarships, and we've had a number of individuals join in. So we're going to be starting our Masters in Regenerative Action with 100, maybe more scholarships for anybody who wants to do a whole new kind of MBA, not a Master's in Business Administration. That is so 20th century, but a Master's in Regenerative Action, so that business can contribute to regenerating in an active, dynamic way the revitalization of our precious, precious planet. So welcome to Earth Day, everyone. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving and celebration of being able to be alive at this moment, let's just pause and center ourselves in our bodies. We are bodies. Our bodies are a manifestation of Earth. And let us take a few deep breaths, knowing that every breath we take comes from a tree, the plant, and every breath we exhale, we give them what they need to live in a symbiotic relationship between the plant kingdom, the trees, and human beings. And let us close our eyes and place our attention on our hearts for just a minute. Let us listen to our heartbeat in a spirit of deep gratitude and thanksgiving that we're alive at this extraordinary moment in the human journey. Thank you, everyone. And now, with an open heart and a heart full of gratitude for each and every one of you, I want to commence our program by saying that we thought the best way to celebrate Earth Day would be to bring two tree whisperers to Humanity Rising and remind us of our relationship with the trees. With every breath we take, we're in a synergetic relationship with the trees and the plants. And I had the real honor and privilege to meet Basha Alexander and Jim Conroy last week, in fact, here in San Anselmo, just north of San Francisco in California. We had met through Humanity Rising, and we had a conversation some months ago, and I was just entranced. They sent me their books. They've written 7 books together on tree whispering and caring and communicating with trees and plants and the earth. They have an extraordinary background. Jim Conroy has a PhD in plant pathology from Purdue University. He worked, as many of us did, and we start our journeys sort of in agribusiness and agrochemicals, and then, like many of us, had an epiphany and gave it all up and dedicated his life to tending to trees, healing trees, and through healing the trees, healing himself, healing the earth, healing humanity. And Basha has been working with him all this time and is really a tree listener who just carries that deep empathy of the Great Mother in everything that she does. And together they've done extraordinary work all over America. They were here in California with actually another client. As you all know, there's been huge fires in California, and actually the first one for 2021 broke out yesterday in Mendocino County. So already the fire season is starting in California, and we have an extended drought. We're already rationing here in Marin County. So this moment of celebration for what President Biden is doing around climate change is happening against the backdrop of a fragility of our planet. We've decimated, we've wiped out and cut down over 50% of all the trees on planet Earth in the last 50 years. And so tending to the environment on Earth Day is a high, sacred, noble, challenge for all of us. So Basha, Jim, welcome. I love you dearly, and I'm still resonating in my heart our time together. We went to the top of a hill, Red Hill nearby, where I have my own little relationship with the tree, and they consecrated it and surrounded the whole area with love and healing, and it altered my relationship with myself and the tree that I've come to adore that sits right on top of Red Hill. So Basha, Jim, I turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Thank
we
you.
Love you.
We love you
too.
Jim. We had such a wonderful time. Oh my, it was great. And I would love if I could just share the screen quickly. Someone else is sharing, so I have to.
It's open now, Basha.
Oh, okay, great. Yes, there we go. There we go. There's Jim with his incredible tree. Oh, that was such a lovely, lovely day, and we too resonated with you. We feel that you're really up to some great things here with Humanity Rising and with Ubiquity University, and we want to thank you for all these wonderful events and for your commitment to the whole planet and to humanity. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim, for all the work you're doing. Just fabulous work, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that. All the good work you're doing, and just fabulous. Okay, that's all I'll say. Just fabulous work, and moving everything forward, moving this whole project forward. And I love the scholarships for the MBA program. I love that. Just a fabulous program coming up with new MBAs. What a
yeah.
Just
great
to
idea.
me, that's really dynamite. Go ahead, Basha.
So welcome everyone for celebrating this wonderful Earth Day, focusing on our lovely Mother Earth. And so we hope to give you some connection to trees and to Earth today, and to give you some more insight into how we can heal trees and Earth. So I'm going to start to share the screen again. Okay, just a sec. Okay, so our agenda for today. So this is, we feel, a new idea: healing nature to restore livability on Earth. Healing, it's a new word in this whole environmental movement. Then we'll introduce the 4 C's and what is tree whispering. I will lead a guided visualization experience, a meditation. It'll be a connection experience with the tree. Then Jim.
I'll lead a discussion about healing nature and consciousness overlap, my consciousness with the trees and plants overlap, working with them, helping to heal all the beings of nature, helping to heal the trees, and then all the beings of nature, and some of my insights working with trees.
And then we'll finish up with what you can easily do yourself to restore a livable planet. Okay, so we feel that practical actions are only half of what's needed for a livable planet. Yes, humanity has to reduce emissions, stop pollution, recycle, make technological advances, but that's only half. Because those things may slow climate change, they may improve things, but they're not going to heal already stressed or declining trees or plants or whole ecosystems. So, what is the other half of restoring livability? It is people's direct and conscious healing interactions with nature, and that can heal ecological damage. Healing interactions, that's the caring heart, the open mind, and deep soul connections. And what do we mean by people's direct conscious healing interactions? Well, we mean the 4 C's: connecting, communicating, collaborating, and co-creating.
You know, this is an excellent shot at the top of the mountain, and you can see the white sticks there. Those are birch trees at the top of the mountain. And it's just a good indication to show you what can happen here. And what happens is the trees get sick, they get confused, they don't know how to heal themselves anymore, and then they proceed to go on. And it happens with the whole species. And that's what happened with these birch trees at the top of this mountain. And the whole idea is here again. That's due to climate change, pollution, and all the stresses that is going on. They just can't withstand those changes anymore, and then they move on their merry way off to not being alive anymore. So what it is all the disconnected parts in the tree.
Sorry.
All the disconnected parts, all the parts in the tree become disconnected. And that's all the X's. So the tree isn't able to function correctly and proceeds to die. And that's what happens. And that's how we have a degradation and a loss of species.
So how can nature be healed? Well, energy medicine, hands-on kinds of healing are really a good start. And we were inspired 18 years ago by energy medicine for humans, the body talk system, very excellent energy medicine approach. But we need to go a little further, and that's consciousness to consciousness healing for nature. And it's more than just the human brain. So what are our challenges in this regard? Well, people are in the old mindset and we don't even see it. It's all about assuming that we can control, dominate, exploit, or be superior in some way to nature. Of course, all this started at least back in the 16th century. And this mindset is invisible to us now. And another thing is people are human-centric. We can't help it. We're humans. We think as humans. Again, we're not aware of it, but it has become, well, it's all about me and what I want. And so these are the challenges that we need to overcome.
And one of the things, one of our goals is to help humanity become green-centric, coming from the tree or plant's point of view. In other words, seeing through their eyes. And we'll give you some hints about that as we go on today. You'll get some input because a lot of people say, well, they think sometimes they're seeing through the trees and plants' eyes, but they're not. And we'd like to, what we're going to be talking about today will help you get some insight into that.
Really becoming green-centric instead of human-centric. Our other goal is to offer a new mindset for humanity, living in partnership with nature. Partnership, collaboration, cooperation, living in partnership rather than the old paradigm. So how would we do that to heal trees and nature? Well, the 4 C's. At the very core is having connection experiences, and then communicate, collaborate, and co-create with nature. That's how to become a partner and how to be green-centric. What is our tree whispering method? Well, it's several things, but the real key about it is we should probably call it nature listening, because it has more to do with connecting and hearing nature, giving nature a chance to really speak to us and through us. And that's really the core of it. And there's many other things too, but that's the most important. So how does a person interact with and provide information to a tree? Well, through a bioenergy overlap. Our hearts produce bioenergy fields. And we ask that you go to heartmath.org for a lot more detail about that truth, and they've done the science on that. Also, trees produce bioenergy fields because they're alive. And when we're close to another living being, another person, a tree, any other living being, our bioenergy fields overlap. The second way is through energy and consciousness-based procedures. It's overlapping with the tree's consciousness. And Jim's going to be talking about that a lot more as the talk goes on. And the third way, and this is the simple, easy way that you can do, is through simple and easy whispers. These are intentional messages conveyed through the heart, the mind, the deep soul, and they are embedded with very powerful healing instructions for trees and nature. But you'll notice that we've been saying all along, it all begins with connection experiences. It all begins there. And we have 5 easy and simple steps. They're not linear, but we have to write them in a line. Observation and appreciation, caring or affection, inner quiet, engagement or coming from the plant's point of view, and exchanging mutual messages. But let's not talk about these things. That would be too linear. Let's actually experience them. So I invite you all to join me in a guided visualization meditation experience. It'll be about 11 minutes long. And so here's what you can expect. We're going to get quiet inside. We're going to step inside the tree's world to find out what its life is like and to come from its point of view. And we'll briefly exchange mutual messages. So you're probably not with the tree right now. If you are, fantastic. But if you're not, you can simply use your imagination by recalling your favorite tree. Or you could participate with a houseplant. Or you could use my photos for inspiration. These are some amazing trees that we have been working with over the last several years. Okay, so let's begin. Now, I'm going to go a little faster than you might want to go when you do this yourself. That's just because we have some time constraints here, but I think you'll get the idea. So let's begin our connection experience with the tree. So please settle into your chair and breathe. Just relax. You're in a safe place and you are protected. The first step of the connection experience is observation and appreciation. We observe with our physical senses first. Now, you may have already developed a keen intuition, but for this exercise, it's ideal to use your physical senses when possible. And if you are remembering your favorite tree, do the best you can in your imagination. So first, see the tree as a whole. See it in its place. View its size, shape, branching. Is the canopy full and lush or sparse? Now zoom in a little closer with your sight or in your imagination. Take a look at the leaves. How are they oriented on the branch? In other words, are they opposite each other or in an alternating pattern? Imagine touching them. Are they soft or firm? Look at the trunk. See a multitude of shapes and shades of color. If you can, feel the textures. Now look at the root area. Is the soil smooth or rocky? Is there plenty of room, or is the root area constricted by walls, rocks, or pavement? Notice now that you're probably beginning to feel a sense of appreciation for the tree. It's trying to live the best it can where it is. And say in your heart, I appreciate your fill in the blank. And that leads us easily into step 2, caring. You may feel affection arising for the tree. Or perhaps if it has some issues, you may feel some sympathy or empathy for it. You're in step 2, caring. And you might say in your heart, I'm your friend. If you go no further with these steps of the connection experience, being the tree's friend is the best thing you can do. But let's go further. Let's go further into step 3, which is inner quiet. So you may close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And breathe comfortably, deeply, and slowly. And imagine that your heart is shining like the sun. Its brightness shines and dissipates any clouds of concern. You take a breath of fresh air. You are free to see the world from other points of view. Feel confident that you have a child within you who hasn't forgotten how to play with nature and how to talk with trees. Now bring forward that feeling of childlike wonder and inner quiet as we move into step 4, engagement, or coming from the tree's point of view. Now we always ask permission when engaging with the tree. So in your heart, say, I would like to spend some time with you and get to know you. Is that okay? And you will probably feel a sense of calm. That means you have permission. It's unlikely, but if you feel disquiet, you may stop or simply move to another tree. Now, imagine that your heart is shining like the sun and your bioenergy field radiates out beyond your physical body. And imagine that the bioenergy field of the tree is glowing and expanding. Your two fields now overlap. And in that overlapping area, perceptions can be shared. So just like a child pretending to be Alice in Wonderland, imagine that there's a door on the trunk and you open it. A bright white light shines on you and you step inside the trunk. Look around or feel around inside of the trunk. There's lots of activity in the circulation tubes just under the bark. Now move up to a leaf. Look around or feel around. There's lots of activity as cells divide and food is produced. Now move down to the roots. Like a child at play, you are inside the roots. There's lots of activity as fluids come into the cells of the roots. Feel yourself expand and expand until you fill the whole tree. You begin to merge with its intelligence and even its spirit. And next we'll find out what its life is like. Sense the cool of water moving around in the roots. Feel fluids pulsing up and down through the circulation system. Feel sturdiness of the trunk. Experience flexibility in branches. What is it like to have the warmth of the sun on leaves and on the trunk? What is it like for rain to fall on the leaves or on the root area? What is it like to rejoice in the breeze? What is it like to live in the community of other trees? So your consciousness and the tree's consciousness are overlapping. Awarenesses can be shared and exchanged through any of your senses. Mutual messages can be given and received. You may have already perceived a message of some kind from your tree. If so, great. If not, simply breathe and allow yourself to have a thought, to feel something, to hear something, or to envision something, and take the first thing you get, whether or not it makes sense. And now ask for more and take the first thing you get. In the fifth step, mutual messages, the deep wisdom, spirit, and intelligence of nature that exists in your tree wants to be your friend and wants to exchange messages with you. It may take a little more patience. You may have to return a few times. But if you're willing to take the first thing you get, to accept it as a message, then you will gain confidence in exchanging messages. the most important thing is to enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Feel satisfied that you and your tree have a close and loving connection. In your heart, say thank you to your tree now. And you might promise to return to connect with it again. Take a deep breath. Relax your focus. Stretch your back and shoulders and return to your human reality. Take a moment to reflect.
So Basha just led us through a beautiful connection experience. And now I'm going to talk about some of the other C's: the communicate, the collaborate, and the co-create with nature. And what I want to do is a little reminder here with trees. There's a consciousness there. Okay, very, very important. There's a consciousness there. You know, we have consciousness and we have a brain. Trees don't have a brain, but they do have a consciousness. And in that consciousness are the goals, ideals, innate potentials, and purposes. Goals: I want to be big. I want to be strong. I want to be healthy. Ideal design: I want to be an apple tree, or I want to be an oak tree, whatever the case might be. Innate potentials are, well, in the case of the apple tree, is to put on apples, not put on acorns, like the oak tree. The oak tree put on the acorns. Okay, that's what the innate potentials are. Purpose: they all have a purpose for being there. Even those weeds that come in your garden have a purpose for being there. Okay, they're there to cover the soil, cover the earth. That's their purpose. Okay, so consciousness is there. It's a guidance system in all of the trees and plants. They're absolutely guided by that. It helps them drive their purpose. It helps them when they're sick. It's a guidance system for when they're sick, and they're all aligned with that goals and ideals, and that consciousness. Okay, is all aligned with the tree and the plant. And one important thing is that the consciousness comes before form. So I'll read you this saying, and I read this, I found this saying probably 15, 18 years ago. And at the time, I didn't quite understand it, but I sure do understand it now. They say that the oak tree is brought into creation by two forces at the same time. Obviously, there's the acorn from which it all begins, the seed which holds all the promise and potential, which grows into the tree. Everybody can see that. But only a few can recognize that there is another force operating here as well. The future tree itself, that's the consciousness, which wants so badly to exist that it pulls forth the acorn into being. Draw the seedling forth with a longing out of the void, guiding the evolution from nothingness to maturity. Okay, again, that's the consciousness. In this respect, say the Zens, it is the oak tree that creates the very acorn from which it was born. Okay, again, it's all about consciousness. What's consciousness drive? Again, those goals, ideals, and innate potentials. In the various seasons of the year, in various parts of the country or parts of the world, trees go into dormancy in the winter. Well, it's important for them to store food for that winter. Okay, get the food into the buds for the next year. In the spring, it's about getting the flow going at the right timing. Okay, everything about get things going at the right timing so they don't freeze, so that, and just magically that consciousness knows when to get everything flowing in that tree. Spring and summer, it's about health and growth. And for other organisms, it's about coexisting with other organisms. How do we coexist? How can we, all those organisms in the soil, the insects in the air, everything. How can we all exist? And the last part is the guidance system, is when we're sick, how can we heal ourselves? Okay. And the consciousness helps drive all those things. It's an important thing I want to bring up about about trees, is that one trunk is not a tree. Okay. This is kind of bringing in that whole idea of coming from the tree's point of view. Okay. I'm kind of trying to bring you around about the consciousness, now about the one trunk is not a tree. They live in community, very, very strong community. Trees, and one thing about that community, okay, there might be an oak community, there might be a maple community, there might be an ash tree community, okay, but then there's also communities between them all, okay, in which there's a community of oaks, including maples, including ash trees, okay. It's both, it occurs on various levels. And it's one of the things I use, along with the next concept of when I'm at the top of the mountain, when I'm treating trees, I can get a whole large area because I'm working with that whole community of trees. It might be one tree as my example, but I am working with the whole community of trees. I'll explain more in a second. So trees communicate by a song, very important. If a lot of people think, well, it's the mycelial network or it's the roots touching. That's how they communicate. Well, yeah, that's partially right. But the real way they communicate is by a song. Okay. They kind of sing to each other. It's kind of a low vibration. We can't hear it, but they're singing to each other. Well, guess what? If the tree is sick, they sing an offbeat song. What are they doing? They're asking for help from the rest of the community. Hey, I need some help over here. Can you guys kind of help me out? Help me sort out. I'm not functioning right, or something's not operating correctly. Asking for help from the community. But also on the other side of that whole thing is diseases and insects hear that same offbeat song. And that's how they are attracted to the sick tree. So in the trees world, what comes first, the insect or disease or the sick tree? And I tell you, I hear this all the time in conventional wisdom. The tree is sick. What's the disease or insect that's attacked that tree? And very often people will start to work on that insect or disease that's attacked that tree and think that's going to help the tree. Well, yeah, it'll help. But really what needs to happen is help the sick tree, get the tree back healthy again. That's what needs to happen. And then what happens is the insects, diseases start coming back into collaboration with the trees again. So the sick tree comes first, then the insects and diseases find their way with that offbeat song. Important concept here between the communication and the community is when I'm working with large acreages of trees. If there's a tree that's sick, I'm working with that one tree. Guess what? All those other trees in that same area probably have a problem similar to the one I'm working in. It might not be exactly the same, but it might be similar. And they'll pass that message on. It goes into the consciousness of those trees. And then I can help large acreages of trees. And that's why I love getting up on top of mountains and working with large acreages of trees. Go ahead, Masha. So how do trees and plants get sick? Well, local environmental stresses, too hot, too cold, too wet, too dry. That's pretty simple to understand. Multiple season stresses. Yeah. In other words, those same conditions, hot, cold, wet over multiple seasons. Pollution, global climate change, combinations of the above, and then the vicious cycle with the biotic stressors. As I said, the insects and the diseases are attracted to the sick tree. And Bosch had put in a post here of where you can find these stressors for trees and plants. So let's talk about an unhealthy network pattern inside of a tree and then a healthy network pattern. So inside of the tree, you can see there on the left-hand side, the circles there. Well, the circles aren't complete, either in any of those circles within there. the circulation is not complete, the photosynthesis is not complete, the cell division is not complete. So they're not only not completely connected, the functions are not completely connected within the cells, but they're not interconnected correctly. Okay. Whereas if you look over on the right, you can see that the functions are connected and then they're interconnected. So let me tell you here, take a look, just think about this a little bit. Down at the bottom there, that bottom circle, this is all in this right-hand set of circles there. You see photosynthesis. Well, yeah, okay, the tree is making food for itself. It makes that in the leaves, right? Over, and then you see the circle up above to the left there, circulation. Yeah, okay, so it makes the food in the leaves. It's got to circulate. It's got to move that food around inside of itself. Okay, and where does it do? It moves the food to the growing points. That's the third circle, so you can have cell division and get growth in the tree. Okay, so you can see how interconnected those have to be, and that's part of the healthy network pattern, getting all those parts and functions all interconnected. So, but why can't trees heal themselves? Which people say all the time, can't this tree heal themselves? Well, sometimes they can, but very often now, more often than probably before, is they can't. They get stuck. They got too many things that are not connected. They can't manage their inner resources properly. They get confused. They don't know what else to do. And then what they do is they just kind of sit there. And when they sit there, they kind of eventually go into a decline cycle. And that's what brings about your species degradation. Okay. So what do? Well, we work with that. We work with those functions inside of the tree. And we work with the consciousness of the tree. We overlap with the consciousness of the tree. We get in touch with those feedback loops inside of the tree and help get them back connected again, getting them all back working again inside of that tree. As I said, those three there. Conventional approaches don't recognize that products can't do this. Okay, people say, I'm going to put fertilizer on the tree. Well, I'll tell you what, if the tree's functions over to the left are not connected, you can put all the fertilizer you want on that tree. It's not coming back. Or you can water the tree. You can do all those things. You can spray for the insects and disease on the tree. They're not coming back. What we have to do is get those inner parts and functions back connected again and get them operating again. So this is the desired result, moving from compensating or compromised functions in the tree to the healthy functions in the tree. How do we do this? Well, I'll tell you what, I put my hands on the tree. I get in touch with the energy of the tree. The tree tells me what's not operating inside of the tree. And that's how I start with this. It's my consciousness overlapping with the consciousness of the tree. Okay. So I get that information from the tree. I find out what's not operating. I find what the goals of the tree are, where it's trying to go. Then my spirit guides give me some guidance here, a path to healing. We look for kind of a general, I kind of look for a path to healing, and then I have to sit very quietly and listen and see what the tree is telling me, see what my spirit guides are telling me, and kind of put it together as to what's not connected inside of that tree, what needs to go where. And I make a series of connections and functional links inside of the tree, like driving circulation to move food inside of the parts. And then I ask that treatment to come fully into the consciousness of the tree. We align the consciousness of the tree with the dimensional blueprint. Then we bring this dimensional to physical to dimensional flow. I got to tell you, people don't realize, but a lot of the healing occurs in a dimensional space, then flows into the physical. It is so important with energy work or working with trees and plants, is to work in a dimensional space. It's not hard. Okay. We have some simple ways for people to do this, but it's working with that dimensional space, then understand it flows into the physical. Go ahead, Bosh. So this is a specific example I'm going to give you. I worked on this tree yesterday. Okay. As you can see, it's an oak tree. I've been keeping this tree alive for years. working with the tree, trying to help it out, work it along. It's just now, just beginning to bloom out. It looks a little bare up top. It's because now it's just an oak tree, and I'm on the East Coast. So these are just beginning to bloom out now and bud out now. Well, okay, I went into the tree. I asked, well, what's not operating correctly inside of the tree? Well, I found out soil to roots wasn't connected well, so it wasn't getting good flow soil to roots, roots to trunk, where there wasn't a good connection. The trunk was all blocked up. And then from there on up, things seemed pretty good. Trunk to branches was pretty good. Branches to buds was pretty good. So I thought right away, I guess in my own head, I said, oh, well, that's, we just got to get the circulation going in that tree. No, what that tree needs is, they said, okay, need some help breaking down some food we made we stored during the winter. Get the food down to the roots first. We need to get some root growth first. Okay, that's what we need first. I said, well, what about the buds? Buds, the tree says, we'll take care of that. The buds have lots of food and energy on them. They'll bud out. So those leaves begin to grow, because you want those leaves to begin to grow, because that's your future food supply. Okay, so we work out with the roots, start to get the roots growing. Then once we get some food to the roots, start to get them growing, there's a circulation. We'll start to get some circulation going, get the leaves growing, then get the fluids up into the leaves, get the food out of the leaves, drive more circulation, drive more food down to the roots. You have to do that several times, get those roots going. Then what we'll do is we'll open up the flow in the roots, and open up the flow in the trunk of the tree, and then open up the flow in the top of the tree. You get a well-balanced tree beginning to grow. And that's the kind of interactions we're doing in the tree. Again, a lot of this takes place in a dimensional space, okay, and then flows back into the physical. And it's that healthy network pattern, getting that going throughout the tree. But the path to healing is what the tree needs. It's not what I think the tree needs, it's what the tree needs. And it's between my spirit guides and the tree telling me what it needs and how we work on it. And then bringing that into the consciousness of the tree, aligning the consciousness with the blueprint of the tree, and then bringing that all into that dimensional, the physical, the dimensional flow. And that's kind of what we do. Go ahead, Basha. So I always use this as an example to tell people about this dimensional, the physical, the dimensional flow. Farmer in Iowa sits there and says, I can actually watch my corn grow. And people say, oh, I don't believe that. Yeah, he does. That's the truth. Because what happens is the corn grows in a dimensional space, then it appears into the physical. That's what happens. You see the diagram here off to the left, you see the dimensional spaces flowing into the physical, back into the dimensional again. And that's the rotation that takes place in the trees and plants. Okay, so how does this all fit into a livable planet? Well, if we have impeded DPD flow, dimensional physical to dimensional flow, due to pollution and human interferences, that causes the degradation. You see up here in the corner, you see if the tree is growing in a dimensional spaces, but there's interference in there and it can't get into the physical space, you see what's happening to the tree there. It's not going to be a very healthy tree. Goes back into the dimensional again, and keep coming into the physical, but it's not a healthy tree. So it's important that, first of all, the first thing that's needed is to restore that physical environment, and that can be done by humanity doing the proper right things. What's that? Well, that's the recycling, reducing carbon emissions, etc. Okay. What's the second thing? Is healing trees and other beings of nature with these conscious interactions. That's what we're talking about. And people can do this very, very simply. We've got some whispers, and we'll talk to you more about this in a few minutes. They're energy-packed whispers that people can go out in their own backyard or a park or a forest and go out and say these to the trees. And they're energy-packed, and they help those trees to heal. Once we get the beings of nature healed, we start lowering our emissions and our pollution. Then those healed beings can contribute to that overall improvement of the physical environment because they're healthier. Okay. And then that helps the physical, the dimensional flow, thereby creating a positive feedback loop for both the trees and plants and for us as humans. All right. So it's restore the physical, heal the beings, then the beings contribute to the overall improvement of the physical, and therefore creating that positive feedback loop for both of us.
So here we have a sample healing whisper for you, just to give you a small taste of what it's like to give a whisper. This particular one has to do with food and fluid flow, that's hard to say, in a tree's vascular system. And it's one of 10 whispers. We also have many whisper sets for different circumstances, like where fires occur or blizzards or drought or different circumstances. So what are whispers? They're those power-packed intentional messages that come from your heart and from your consciousness. They heal the trees and they empower you. So here's the first example. So let's all do this together. So just close your eyes again for a moment, focus on your tree just for a moment, and you'll have to reopen your eyes to read the whisper. Let's all do it together. Please open flow and distribute food and food energy, plus fluid and fluid energy where they are needed, within and between all, in all areas, at all levels, and in all dimensions. Beautiful. I could actually feel it in this whole global network that we have of people here. I could feel this settling in. This was just amazing. Thank you so much.
And we'll give you a reference for the whole 10 whispers before the end of this talk.
Good.
Go ahead.
So here we are, Earth Day. We're going toward everybody wins and a livable planet.
So we've already talked about, now we've talked about connection, talked a little bit about communicating and collaborating to some extent. Now I want to show you some results about collaborating and co-creating, and just give you a couple of trees that we've done some work on. This was a tree in Ojai, California, after the Thomas fire happened in 2017. We happened to get there in early March 2018. And then we made several trips in 2018. We were able to get back in 2019 to see what the tree looked like. We were not able to get there in 2020 because of not traveling under the COVID circumstances. So what's this work all about we do? Well, what happens is we help these trees, they've been burnt, and we help them with a path to healing. All right. Now, a lot of times people ask me, is my tree alive? And I put my hands on the tree and I can tell them, yeah, the tree is alive, but that doesn't mean the tree is going to come back again. What can happen is the tree can go on and start to grow, and then it runs out of resources, runs out of food, or something gets blocked up, or something happens, and then they fail, even after they survived the fire. So what we do is help them with that path to healing, much in that example, like I showed you before. And as you can see here, one of the things, go ahead, put your slide over there, Basha. One of the things really beautiful to watch, and I got to tell you, this is the most beautiful thing you'd ever want to see, is out of the burnt bark. There you go, the shoot coming out of the burnt bark, the tree starting to put up that new growth. Okay, after we've treated that tree, starting to put up that new growth, and that's from which it all starts. And then what we're trying to do is help that tree, first of all, manage that differentiation tissue, so it starts to produce those shoots, but then also that the functions and the parts and the functions inside of the tree support that new shoot so the shoots can grow inside of that tree. Go ahead. And turn out just like we did there on that right-hand side picture. Okay. And that's what this is all about, helping the trees finding the path to healing. Go ahead, Bush. Now, these were, the famous fire in Paradise, California. We were there in March. That occurred in late 2018 again. We were there in March 2019, again, working on those trees there. These are some giant redwoods, and we helped work with those trees. Redwoods are pretty good. They're pretty good about sending up shoots, but the important thing here was to help them. We wanted to help them differentiate tissue, but then it was also to support that whatever new tissue they were putting out is help them to completely support that, get the growth right. Some of the redwoods are very tall. They had a few needles left on top that can help them make some food. Well, you got to optimize the use of those needles to make enough food to support the whole tree and support this new growth. So that's what our function, that's what we help them do, help them with a path to that healing. Again, this is what they look like in July 2019. Again, we didn't get back in 20 to see what they look like, but I'm sure these are nice, big, healthy trees, came back beautifully. And again, it's helping them with that path to healing, help them use those resources properly so they can, so those trees can heal. And that's a big piece of our work. And that's what we do. This is a beautiful tree. This tree got, you see over the left there, this is May 18th, in 2017, that tree had been transplanted onto the property. It was like in about July 2017. You can see the size of that tree. That's a pretty large tree to get transplanted, but it was done. And they moved the tree into the property. The tree got in the property, sat there and worked, started to grow there, lived there for about a month or so. And all of a sudden it started to drop its leaves. So everybody's wondering, is this tree going to make it through another year, So it came to be 218. I wondered if it was going to start to put out some new buds. It was getting already early part of May, not too much growth out of this tree. So I kind of had to work with the tree. And the tree was stuck. Okay, it was totally stuck. It had gone through transplant. It was shocking, transplant shock. Didn't know quite what to do. How do I get out of this? It wasn't a very healthy tree, I guess, when it got moved. And the tree had to make a decision, do I want to go on or do I want to just go away, and that was it. And I kind of worked with the tree. I helped it see a path to healing. And I said, well, you think maybe you can give this one more shot? They say, yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I'll give it one more shot. We worked quite a while. I mean, I worked a couple hours with this tree. This just wasn't, all didn't just come forth with a quick little spark of light. It was just kind of working with that tree, working with the consciousness of that tree, going back and forth. How can we do this? Get this connected, get this working, get that working. Do you think you can do it? Yes, I think I can do it. I'll give it one more try. Okay. And here it is on May 2nd. Here it is on May the 5th. And you can see shoots. The owner was in his house looking down at the tree. And he said, look at the shoots coming out of that tree. And then that tree proceeded to leaf out that year. And then even in 2020, it leafed out again just beautifully. So it turns out to be a nice, healthy tree. So consciousness helps align that path to healing. We work with that consciousness, help align that path to healing and bringing that tree forth to be a healthy tree. Go ahead. Yeah, this is an oak tree I've been working with for several years. It's what it looks like about. It's looked like about May 8th, 219, and then 220. You can see the leaves on the tree. It leafed out in 219 also, but I wanted to show you that even in 220 it leafed out. You see some dead branches in the tree. In the tree. Well, that's okay. Dead branches don't grow leaves. Okay, so we can trim out those dead branches, and you'll have a nice, healthy tree. But what it is, this tree is local to me, so I can see this tree quite often. So I work with the tree in the fall. Said, okay, help you get food to the roots and for storage, get food to the next year's buds. Then in the spring, right now, in fact, I just treated this tree probably 2 days ago. Again, help you get flow up into the tree, helping it put on new vascular system, needs new vascular system. Vascular system on a tree is right underneath the bark. Xylem takes fluids up, phloem brings fluids down. It's right underneath the bark. And I'm working with that tree to help put on additional vascular tissue beyond what it has already. Trees put on new vascular tissue each year. That's the annual rings on a tree. Okay. But they'll tend to put on about the same they had as the previous year. And what I'm working with the tree is to put on additional vascular tissue in that tree. So then it can support the top of the tree as well. And then you have good support between the roots, the trunk of the tree, and the top of the tree. Okay, the top growth of the tree. This is another large tree. It's in a tree south of San Francisco. This is a coastal live oak. And this is what this tree looked like in 2014 when we were first invited to work on this tree. And we've been working on it ever since. Again, we were just there about a week ago. You can see how healthy this tree continues to be. And this tree had all kinds of things, had diseases on it. And we worked out what we call eco-peace treaties with the disease. We help improve the functionality of the tree, get the tree back operating again, get it back connected again, getting the functions going in the tree. Here's my point on this tree. Trees are on tree time. They're not on people time. We think, oh, this should happen fast. And this is important to remember in this whole global picture, about healing trees. They're on tree time. They're not going to recover just instantly. And they're going to take time. And that's important to remember, because that's where we need to continue to work with them to help bring about that new health so that they can be supportive of us and the whole planet. This is a good example of co-creating with a tree or plant. The upper left-hand corner there, these trees were on this lady's deck, okay? And obviously they were blocking the view on her deck. And, they put them there and they just got too big. And now, anybody could take the easy route and cut them down, right? But this lady said, no, I'm not going to cut these trees down. I love these trees. I want to keep these trees. So how can we do that? So what I did is I got with the person who takes care of the property. We worked it out and I treated those trees. And then the trees and I figured out where they want to be transplanted to on the property. Okay. The owner of the property said, fine, that's just great. We'll put them over there. I worked with I worked with the trees about 2 weeks before they got transplanted. The day before they got transplanted, I was there treating them. And I was working again. And I said, now look, guys, pull in your energy. Okay. I just treated you. You're healthy. Pull in your energy. You're going to get transplanted tomorrow. Okay. And I'm going to come back the next day and I will tell you to release your energy. Okay. Back out into the earth again. And they said, fine, this worked good for us. So what happens is I kept my word. I came back the next day. I worked on the trees and they lived to be just very healthy trees. These are very big trees to move. Okay. And, but they moved really well. And the owner, the caretaker on the property, I said, well, how did the transplant process go? Because I wasn't there the day they were transplanted. He said it went very easy. And I said, well, what do you think? What do you think? Why do you think it went? Why do you telling me that it went easy? He said, and it was quiet on the phone. He said, because we think it's something you did. Okay. And it was, because you told those trees to pull that energy in. Sure. They said, okay, we'll move, we'll move. In fact, I should have told the trees, look, this is a benefit to you guys. You're not going to be all crunched together here. You're going to have a little space to grow. You're going to be able to grow bigger. They love that idea. So it was good for the trees, good for the people. That's what we're talking about, co-creating. It was good for everybody. Okay. And it wasn't the simple route of, oh, we'll just take the trees down. That's the simple route that a lot of people turn to all the time. And it wasn't about that. Go ahead, Bosch. Next slide. So then we do eco-peace treaties with trees and plants. And this is eco-peace treaties with insects, diseases, and even things like deer, algae in the pond, various things. So what's an eco-peace treaty all about? Well, remember, I said that the tree has a consciousness. Guess what? Those insects have a consciousness too. Okay. That deer has a consciousness too. Okay. It's possible to work with all of them, and it's possible to get them to collaborate. And what it's all about, and it's not getting them, it's working with them to collaborate. And what it is, it's about giving those other organisms a place to live. So in the case of the deer, for example, this is deer in a garden, was giving the deer, look, the deer had everything they wanted on this property: food, water, and a place to bear their young. They had what they wanted. That's what they wanted. Okay. In return, we just asked them to stay out of a certain area. And I'll show you a picture of that in a few minutes. In the case of these beetles, we had to ask them to, okay, they live on a certain host, which happens to be the ash tree in the case of the emerald ash borer, the pine bark beetle in the case of the lodgepole pines in Colorado. And so what we do is we say, okay, you can live on the tree, but don't kill the tree. Please don't kill the tree. Don't come in such a heavy population that you kill the tree. And then you work with the tree, that the tree is healthy. It can support the beetles. The beetles support the tree by not overbearing the tree, and everybody goes on their way. Okay. And the tree lives, and the insect lives. And I have many sites in the Northeast with this emerald ash borer and the ash trees. I've had excellent success with that. And I've had excellent success in Colorado with the lodgepole pine bark beetle. But again, it's about working with the consciousness of those beings. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, okay, you work with them and their population is just going to bound up and just take over. No, it doesn't. Because what happens is the consciousness of the being is not under threat. Therefore, they don't tend to overpopulate. If they don't overpopulate, then they're able to collaborate with their host. So everybody kind of can work together. All right. And that's what we've found. And I've had very good success with these. This is an older picture, but it does illustrate the point. This is some hosta that I did not treat in 213, and you can see how clean that is. And then you can see in 214, I worked with it, and the deer didn't eat it. Okay. And this was the eco-peace treaty we worked out with them. Okay. And again, deer had what they wanted. We gave them what they wanted: food, water, and a place to bear their young. We gave them that. And I mean, this wasn't just a little area. This was a 200-acre farm we gave them. Okay. And we gave them a large piece of that, said, okay, and just please stay out of this hosta bed. And you got to know that hostas like Hershey kisses to a baby. A deer just absolutely love hosta. You see the green flags in there because in my discussion with the consciousness of the deer, they said, well, you have to mark off the area where you don't want us. So I did. So we decided on green flags that I put up because they could see the green flags at night. Frankly, that's what the whole deal was. So I put little green flags, and then they knew where not to go. And it's really kind of sweet because in little later on, what will happen is the hosta grows and grows taller than the flags. So you can't even quite see the flags. And so you'll have one come in there and start to nibble at the hosta. And it's almost like they see the flag and they say, uh-oh, we got to get out of here. And then they won't eat anymore. So you see a little chewing right around up to the flag, and they see the flag and then they go. It's kind of really beautiful.
But it's not the flag.
But it's not the flag. That's the important thing. People think, oh, where can I buy those green flags? Man, I want to buy those green flags. That'll keep the deer out of my garden. No, it's not the green flags. That's just a marker. Okay. It has nothing to do with the green flags. In fact, I did the trial again this past year in a garden on this same farm, and I didn't even need flags because the deer and I had such an agreement worked out, and worked out really good. Okay. And again, it's that overlap of consciousness. So there's vast possibilities with people using their consciousness to restore livability with nature. overlap our consciousness with the consciousness of nature, start to come from the plant's point of view or the tree's point of view or nature's point of view. I hope I've given you some examples to do that. Whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Very, very important. And it's very possible to work with all of these beings of nature, heal them, and co-create and collaborate and communicate with them as well. It's also that they do, I'll tell you what, beings in nature, trees especially, I can tell you, they want very badly to communicate with people. They want this. They want to be in touch with people. And they can also help heal us. I was going through a situation where I had a medical problem and I had to be treated every day for that medical problem. And I stood in front of between these two trees every day after I got my treatment. And those trees, absolutely, they'd scan me. I could feel them healing me. And then we'd both go on our way for that day. And but I know, and I love these two trees. I work with them all the time.
But it was mutual because you were healing them also.
Yeah, I was healing them and they were healing me. And that's the important thing, right? It was a mutual healing. And that's the same up here as well. Up in that upper right-hand corner is the Santa Barbara, some live oaks that get buried under 6 feet of mud in the Santa Barbara mudslides. Now you got to understand, on roots, if you put too much soil over the top of the roots, you smother the roots, the tree dies. Okay, the roots need air. Okay, it's a big major problem with trees. Cover those roots, they're in trouble. So these trees were under 6 feet of mud. Well, yeah, they can. Now these are 150, 200-year-old oaks, and there wasn't just one. I got to tell you, there had been 50, 60 of those oaks in there at least. So they got some machinery in there to help do some of the digging out, but they can't get close to the tree because if they get too close to the tree, they'll chip the bark. If they hit the bark of the tree, and remember I told you the vascular system is right underneath the bark, so they knew better than to get too close to the trees with the machinery. So how did they dig out those trees? They dug them out by hand. Okay, ask the group that dug those trees out, ask them what it was like when they were done, and they say it was very uplifting. Again, that's that mutual healing. This is another beech tree I went to work on. It's having a little that same medical problem I showed you in the other case. I went to that tree. It had some phytophthora spots on them. That's a bleeding canker spot on it. And I can help the tree. I said to the tree, now I didn't even have a conversation with the tree at that point, but I went to it. I said, look, I'll help you get rid of I'll help you clear those spots. The tree says, I'll help you clear your spots too. And that's how we work together. So that's mutual healing. So this is the other half of what's needed. You want to cover this one?
Well, this is really the summary here. People's direct and conscious healing interactions with nature start at the core of having connection experiences and then move out through communicating, collaborating, and co-creating. And that moves us from a unlivable planet to a livable planet. And what you can do. Well, whispers. We had one small experience with whispers. You can go and find more of them for today. We suggest that you do some whispers today as part of your Earth Day celebration. And so you can go to partnerwithnature.org/tags/whispers-healing-trees-eco-damage. And there you'll find some other links to other sets of whispers.
And we'll leave this up at the end so you can get all of that copied. Mm-hmm. And if you can't find it,
just email me.
Just email Basha.
Basha@partnerwithnature.org. And we have a few other resources for you as well. We have 5 websites. So you've seen partnerwithnature.org. That's about connecting with trees and whispering for healing nature and a lot more. We also have a sister site, climatewhispering.org. treeprotector.org, a lot of good information there. thetreewhisperer.com, that's Dr. Jim's sites. And he does a lot of videos these days. Every time he treats a tree and has something important to say about that treatment or some insight about what happened there, thetreewhisperer.com. And you can also see our books at plantkingdomcommunications.com. And we'd really appreciate it if you would click community, the button there to join our list at any of those sites. We'd love to continue to stay in touch with you.
We don't send out a lot of notes, but
It's not a lot.
not a lot. And people generally enjoy what we do send out.
And so there we go. There's that contact information again. And we thank you so much for participating in this talk. Was there something else?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I want to make one comment.
Okay.
Okay. You know, I showed you some pictures of the fire areas where we just were and or where we've been. And again, you know, we went to some of those this past week. We were out in Santa Cruz where all those fires were on those redwoods. I love the I'm going to get a little emotional because I love those big redwoods. Okay, and it's very sad for me to see them burn. But I got to tell you, I tell you all about this dimensional to physical flow and about the species degradation because the trees aren't healthy. And I can tell you from a dimensional standpoint why, you know, fire is now coming in there. I completely understand it now. Okay. And I'm not going to go through it today, but I can tell you that I can understand it. It's part of a bigger picture. And it's because that's part of the species degradation. So I have to tell you the fire is. And so that's why I'm kind of almost begging you, please go out with these whispers on Earth Day. Go say these whispers to the trees. If you can be on a mountaintop, do it on a mountaintop. If you can do it in your backyard, do it in your backyard. Do it in a forest, do it in a park. Just do it. And I got to tell you, they're power packed, they're energy packed. Go with those trees, help them out. They do carry it out. Remember, I told you trees and plants operate in community and they can carry those messages out. It adds to, I have people that I have taught that go out and treat. It adds to the treating that I do and all of us together. And if we can get people, whispers are simple. Okay. They're very simple. And as you saw, and, you know, just people can go out and do that. That will help heal those beings. That'll help restore that physical and help bring about that more livable planet for all of us. So I thank you. Thank you for today.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening.
All right.
And with that,
We'll stop sharing.
we'll stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you, Masha.
There's a lot to
thank
get
you
through.
again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done. I am profoundly moved, particularly not only at the awareness that you provided that the trees sing to one another, but the whole notion of eco-field treaty between the
Eco-peace
species.
treaties. Yes.
That's just such a beautiful, warming thought. And I just wanted to share with you, just that there's been a number of stories in the chats while we've been listening to you, but there's one in particular from June Mayward that I think is particularly sweet and exemplifies everything you're talking about. She said, when one of the maples in my lane had to be cut, the others definitely went into mourning.
Yes.
That was when I had the idea to sing to them. The vibration changed the atmosphere and they seemed to calm down. Then I planted a flower garden where the cut tree had been. It was my first fairy garden.
Oh.
And I think that's another aspect that not only do the plants thrive when we complete the circle, but the fairies dance.
Yes, absolutely.
The intelligences of the invisible realm begin
Absolutely.
to come into the fullness of the ecosystem. And I just wonder, could you make a quick comment on that and your experience of these little intelligences from the invisible realms that kind of pop up?
Yes, that's such an enormous field to talk about. To try to make it simple, part of this dimensional work is working with not just the elements, but what we call form builders, which in the more traditional folk language you might call fairies or other names, but the form builders have a crucial job. And it's been very hard for them in these in so much human interference situations. So we not only honor them, but we collaborate with them in the dimensional levels of work that we do.
And then bringing that dimensional into the physical, because we count on the elemental forces, synergies, elements, and the form builders to help bring that dimensional into the physical. And we're asking their help. We know it. And again, we know it's a tough job, but we're asking for their help to do that. Okay. Because of all the human interference and everything like that.
Yeah. So when there's collaboration between humans and nature, it's easier for them to work. That's the simplest way I can say it. And yes, they appreciate it, and they flock to where there is life and growth.
And I got another comment about that situation. I've been in that situation where they're taking down a tree, and the other trees get into mourning. That does happen. And what's really going on, or partially going on, they wonder if they're next. Okay.
Sure.
And I go around, and very often I'll tell the rest, look, you're okay. You're not next. And I've even stood there when the guy is up in the tree on the bucket, getting ready to take the tree. And I walk over to the tree, put my hands on the tree, tell it to take its energy back to the earth, move its energy to the other trees. Okay. And respect for the tree. Tell it, look, I'm sorry. I don't have any power over this. You're going to be taken down. But and then I go, then again, tell them, take their energy, move it to the earth, and please move it to those other trees. And then I move away. And in one instance, the guy, I didn't ask permission. I walked over and did it. He saw me standing there. When I backed off, he looked at me and said, okay. And I said, well, whatever you got to do, and that was it,
Yeah.
But it's all about respect for the beings. And then it's telling the others that no, you're safe. Okay. And it's about moving that energy in a way. It's asking the tree. Remember, I said there's a consciousness there, and it's asking the tree to take that consciousness and move it to another form, whether it's in with another tree or create a new form. Because very often, even in fire areas, we're asking the trees, look, if your form is too burnt, you can't make it. Please take that energy, take your consciousness and move it to a new form. Okay. We ask, or if it's partially burnt and you can compensate, please help compensate. Okay. Or if it's not too burnt, please go back in, move your energy back in there and begin to grow again. All right. So that's part of our work in the fire areas. Okay. And that's what it's all about. It's all about working with that consciousness of that tree. And that's what it's about. And the group of trees, because those other trees, they're like I said, one trunk is not a tree, so that's what it's all about.
If I could just pick up for a second on what Jim said, he really gave some excellent advice on what to do when you see a tree that's being cut down, or even a tree that has fallen in a storm or something like that. Good advice. However, a lot of people get into a state of resignation about, oh, somebody's always going to cut down trees. No, we want to stop that. That's what our tree protector website is aimed toward. We're just starting with that, and we're aiming it toward that, to have people not just speak with trees, but to speak for trees, and to stop recreational cutting. A lot of people just think, oh, well, we'll cut down this tree. Or the worst thing is that some tree professionals, not all, but some, just want to make the sale. And they really don't have the trees or the property owner's best interests in mind. And I'm not saying that that's malicious. They simply don't know that it's possible for a tree to be healed from the inside out. And that's what our work is all about. And that's what we're trying to promote with whispers, simple and easy whispers for people. So we want to get trees to be healthy again, rather than just say, oh, well, I guess it has to be cut down.
Yes, yes. Well, you know, listening to you reminds me of the book I read some years ago on the secret life of plants. I'm sure
Yeah.
you've read it. And they tell the story of Ed Baxter. I mean, in fact, the book starts with the story of Ed Baxter, this guy who helped develop the lie detector for the U.S. Army. It was first used in the Army before it ended up in courtrooms. And he was sitting in his office late one night, and he thought, I wonder, he had a rubber plant. His secretary had put a rubber plant in the corner of the room. And he thought, I wonder what would happen if I hooked the one of the leaves of the plant up to this lie detector. And he hooked it up and nothing happened. So he was sitting there. And then he thought the thought, I wonder if I burnt one of the leaves. And as soon as he thought that thought, the lie detector started to show stress from the rubber plant.
Yeah.
And so what Jim and Basha are telling us today is not something that is their experience only. It's part of the ontology of a conscious universe. And they've done studies, as you know, that not only are they hyper aware of everything that humans are doing, and they're empathetic when you kill not just another tree, but if you kill a deer or you kill a butterfly or a bug, they know it. And they register trauma in some cases.
Exactly.
And, you know, there's other studies, as you know, where they also show they have memory. They did a study where somebody came in and pulled up one of the plants, went away for, I think it was 6 weeks, and came back into the room 6 weeks later, and the other plants, as soon as the person came into the room, registered stress.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely because of what you just said, Jim. They thought we're next, but
We're next.
they also have memory.
That's exactly right.
And they also sing, and you can actually get from Dom and her and people that we know of at various conferences. They'll hook a little machine up to a plant, and it'll start to sing. And as humans start to gather around and start to commune and meditate, it sings one tone. And if there's negative energy, it goes into different tonality. So that's a beautiful thought for Earth Day.
Yeah,
that we're in such a living ecology, I would say, of awareness, aware consciousness that loves us and wants us to be in communication with them for our mutual healing. I love this notion of mutual healing.
Yeah.
So as we come to a close, why don't each of you take a minute and just say some final words of consecration for Earth Day.
Go ahead.
Oh. So let every day be Earth Day. Let every day be a day where we connect with nature, where we observe, appreciate, care for nature, have the inner quiet, engage with the living beings, and have mutual messaging.
Mm. Oh.
And my message is do the whispers. Go out and heal those trees. They need help. They need lots of help. Help the trees, help the beings of nature. That's what it's all about. And in this beautiful universe that we're in, the universe is behind us 100%. The universe wants to expand, and these trees and plants want to expand in concert with the universe, and just help them do that. Help them be part of that. And that's on this Earth Day, is help them be part of that, and help us on the earth be part of the bigger universe, and help the trees and plants be part of the earth and be part of that bigger universe too. Thank you. Thank you.
And out of that consecrations, the fairies will dance.
And out of that consecration,
The fairies will dance.
yeah.
Well, Basha, Jim, we salute you. I am so honored that you graced us today.
Thank you for asking us.
The perfect way for Humanity Rising to remember and commune with our mother. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
Jim.
tomorrow, everyone, we're going to go inside the human body. And we're going to look at our chakras, our energy centers. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing. I mean, Jim was laying out how the trees work. Well, human beings are about as complicated as trees. And we're organized according to 7 energy centers, 7 chakras. And we're going to talk to a couple people who have discerned how to use the natural energy centers of our bodies for psychological assessment and decision-making. So we thought we were looking for something to follow up on Earth Day, and I can't think of anything more spectacular to turn to now, having had this experience of tree whispering, is to do an exercise in body whispering, chakra whispering. So that'll be tomorrow, everyone, on Humanity Rising. So we'll see you same time, same station here on Zoom. Basha, Jim, thank you.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
Jim.
everyone. Have a wonderful Earth Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. And I clicked on.
Great
This-
session, guys.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you,
yeah.
Jim. Thank you so much. Thank you for your input too. And thanks for being,
Oh.
thanks for inviting us. That's we want to thank you.
Your pleasures.
There's so much to cover. We just can't talk fast